technically speaking, the difference between HTML and XML is XML using XML, SAP is creating its own controls. HTML is this universal standard adopted by all the technologies. So that is the only difference. Now in this case, I can write the same button as now in this case, if I say, so I'll give a name called UI5. So I can give it this way, and I can use segment button, segment button. Well, have segment button. So I'll use segment button. So here we have different forms of button as well. Let me take some good icons as well. So we have some icon library as well at this there, and we can use segment buttons. Okay. So segment buttons, this is how segment buttons. So series of buttons, three different buttons put together. So we can use directly icon, or we can use, these are like, it shows our demonstration like how we can use different forms. We can refer to the snippets as well, and we can check out the snippets as well here. So if you want to use some icons, we can use it this way. Okay, just take these icons. So within the button, all we are saying is three buttons we are placing it, and we are collating with the different icons. So taxi, lab, and completer. So these are like different ways. We'll understand in detail the syntax. Now all we are trying to understand is what it takes to have different forms of underlying technology, etc. What we are having it as such.
Ramnath, so the UI design, is it done through XML tags, or do we have like a UI a designer kind of thing?
Yeah, so they're like we use XML tags only. So for building for UF applications, and we have drag and drop tools as well. So we can use the help of it, but we have to write everything on the view in the XML only. That is a recommended language for SAP. So we can write the language in multiple ways, but SAP recommended one is to write in XML way because it is closely associated with HTML, and it is very easy to understand and write in XML. So that's the reason SAP recommended to do. We can write in JavaScript as well, the view, but that is not actually recommended because it is not very scalable. I'll just show you why it is not scalable as well in some of the exercises. But technically speaking, we write in XML.
Okay.
So let's check it out. I think segment button. I think there's a typo error. I suppose segment button loader. Okay, let me. It is segmented button. It's not segment button. So we have to be careful of the button. So all these libraries, etc., we can use the API to refer, and we should be able to. So this is how our button looks like. If you see this is regular button, I can just give it a space out here. So I'm just adding a little bit of label space here. So it will automatically run. So once we keep the application there, so it will automatically run. So this is the simple button, and these are the segment buttons which we have used. So idea is frameworks allows us to have lot more controls. When I say controls, they're like lot more libraries to design our applications. The simple idea is if you use HTML tags also, we can achieve this functionality, but we have to write lots of code to achieve just for this button logic. For writing button logic itself, we'll spend a lot of time trying to add CSS, trying to add icons, trying to do lots of things. What frameworks allows us is they'll give ready-made tools so that we can focus on only on the business logic. So we can focus on writing the logic. So what to do on clicking of the button. So only that part we can concentrate. Instead of focusing on creating controls, we can focus on writing the logic. So that was the motto of frameworks. So frameworks will remove away the all the repetitive tasks. So when I say repetitive tasks, even the template, what it does is instead of every time creating the folder structure, it avoids using just a template. So it avoids all the repetitive tasks, and they give us lots of flexibility. So that is the advantage of using frameworks. Hope so far it is clear, or any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So Omkar, fine, right?
Nice.
Okay. So OpenUFI is a free version where what is the difference exactly in library in terms of library? So one more interesting point I'll just bring to it. So now we understood like we frameworks will offer much more than same plain simple. Now, like I said, out of SAP UFI has 850 controls. So this is what I mentioned, right? So in OpenUFI, not all libraries are available. So for there is a primary library called SAP.m library. So there are like lots of libraries called SAP.m, SAP. SAP.commons, SAP.UI.commons, SAP.core, okay, and SAP. For charts, etc. We have SAP.charts as well, and SAP.viz libraries. They're like sub libraries within which they are classified. So why this classification and what exactly each library has to do? So if you ask me, initially it was targeted for so M are meant for like mobile. So if you are using these controls, every control within SAP M, so that means those are like responsive. They'll come with inbuilt responsiveness. What is responsiveness? Now, if you see our application, now if I use, say this is what we call it as in. See, on one more point, always use Chrome itself because Chrome has inbuilt debugger. So all browsers have, but Chrome debugger is something which is very efficient. So this we'll use for debugging, etc. So if you right click on your existing application, we'll have something called inspect. Okay, you can use keyword F12 as a shortcut, or you can use Control Shift I as a shortcut. When you click on this, on the top right, you'll see some mobile icon. This we call it as emulator. So if you click on this emulator, so if you can minimize this, now if you see, you can test this application in different devices. So if you want to test how it looks on iPad, so this is how it looks. And if you want to test on iPhone, this is how it looks. So you can, so why I'm showing this? So the controls, if you build an application using SCP.m, they are automatically responsive enough. That means the same application can be directly run on your mobile and your desktop as well. So that's inbuilt that controls have that flexibility. So they adapt automatically based on if you're running the device on application, they automatically adjust the size of the width of the buttons, etc., and they'll render automatically. So that is the beauty of M controls. Okay, so we can test the controls, different control libraries. We can use different libraries, and we can place the controls, and we can test this way to see that they are working on different landscape or not. So M controls default they work on all the platforms, whereas there are like certain controls which are exclusively for desktop. For example, is SAP.m.table is an M table which is works across all the three platforms, and SAP.UI.grid is a table which is which supports more complex like just like Excel. If you want to use a table control, then SAP.grid table is the control we use, and it is meant for only for the desktop applications. So if you want more calculations to be done in your application and which are not feasible in your mobile scenario, then we have dedicated desktop controls as well. So like I said, in OpenUFA, there are lots of restrictions in terms of what all libraries are available. Only M library and few grid libraries also available. Only few libraries are available in OpenUFA, and not all libraries are available. So we can quickly view those as well. So if I show you a quick comparison here. So in like I said, how do we know? So there's a section called documentation on the OpenUFA. You can go to here, and there's something called browse demo kit. So if you click on browse demo kit, it will take you to the actual if you see, both look the same. If you see, this is what the Open UFI one, and the one other one which I placed next to you is, so I'll just go to home. So both look the same, but the URL this is the only difference, and the libraries within inside are differ a lot. If I click on API reference now, I'll just collapse this everything. So these are the libraries which they provide. Okay, I'll just open side by side both of these libraries. If you see here, so both look the same. For simplicity, just let me expand. So if you see the libraries which I'm talking are these are, so APF is one library, base is one library, chart is one library. So likewise, M is the one which we have to use as a default choice. So if you use M library, there are lots of controls. Like now, button is a library part of M library. So there are like lots of controls. See, all these are part of M library. So if you use any of this M library, your applications are responsive. But if you're using some of them are outside libraries, so for Gantt chart, we use this, and for a native device like barcode scanning, etc., we have something called NDC library. So we use this NDC library. So these are like other libraries. Now the same libraries, if I go and see and check in SAP, if you see there is a lot more, very less libraries available here. If you see just F, M, and TNT and UI and UX, you got the difference, clear exam difference here. So if you see, there are like lots of libraries available in case of UFI, whereas there are like limited set of are being available for open UFI, open source one. So open source one, not all libraries are available. There, there's a clear difference in terms of a paid version and the free version. But definitely, if you want to have some minimalistic use cases, definitely we can use open UFI to build. So nobody actually uses OpenUFI for any production ready apps as such. But this is just for understanding. Just I'm saying that going forward, if you at all if you want to practice or your skills, so using your acquired skills, if you want to build something without paying any license, you can make use of OpenUFI platform for your learning purpose. So that was the whole idea of OpenUFI. But practically, we are not going to use OpenUFI at any of our usage, but this was illustrated. So how do we use it? So if you at all if you want to use, how do we use it? So I'll just show you that as well. So like we have run our application. So this is definitely UFI because I'm saying it. But what is the proof? Okay, so if I go into our folder structure, there is one beautiful file which tells us everything about what this project is all about. So if I go here, so if you expand web app folder, there is one tiny file called index.html and manifest.json. These two are key files. Okay, so which tells everything about our application. So which version we are running, what libraries we are using, and so etc etc. So in index.html, if you come to this section, there is some tags called, if you see this is like plain HTML. So if it uses HTML, there is one tag called script tag. Any JavaScript code we write within script tag. Okay, so what it has to do is, so this is a single line which defines which libraries we are using it. So in this case, SAP UFI, if we are using it, if because the libraries which we are installed, etc. So they point to the SAP UFI version. If at all we want to use Open UFI version, we have to change this library. So pre-installed, we have installed UFI. So to use Open UFI, what we have to use is, so we have something called CDN. So what is CDN? Let me show you CDN. So we have here as well. Let me pick it from here. So this is what the CDN URL. So CDN is nothing but all our libraries are hosted on some remote server. So we can make use of this remote URL. So this URL which I'm currently using. So if I change it to this URL, then all our libraries are instead of local systems. So if you see the node modules, so all our SAP UFI libraries are installed. So this is a library package which is if I use earlier when I was using it, so this was pointed to this particular section. Okay, now instead if I use this particular library, so if I use OpenUFI library, then it directly picks up from this OpenUFI centrally hosted one. So this is uh, the advantage with CDN URLs is the content delivery network is a word they use. Um, all our libraries will be up to date. So whenever any new version comes up, automatically your library will be up to date library you'll have. Whereas in the manual one, you have to reinstall or update your libraries as and when you're building your application. So then why not we use only CDN always? CDN is because of security reasons. So no customer actually puts their libraries access from some remote system. They prefer to manage on have their software and libraries in their own system due to security reason. Because if your libraries are compromised, your application can be compromised. So due to that reason, always customers prefer to have run their application on their own servers. So that we call it as on-premise, and within the on-premise, all these libraries, etc., would be installed, and only using those generally SAP UFI works. So, but for your purpose, if you want to use it, you can use OpenUFI this way. So if you have to build application, all you have to change is this particular URL, and you can free to use all the libraries which are defined in this particular API reference. So now you're free to use all these libraries by changing that URL, and you are good to, and it's completely free of cost. You can build your whole application. So this is all about UFI and in specific. And I think today we are able to clearly understand um, what is OpenUFI and what is UFI, and what it differs is only the set of libraries, and that's paid version. And what is SAP Fiori? And like we have seen the Fiori apps library, all the apps, around 13,000 apps which you have seen, are exclusively built by SAP using this particular libraries. So all libraries which you have seen, using which they have built. So it is following all the standard guidelines. So it has been branded with a set. All the 13,000 apps were coined as a group of SAP Fiori apps. So that is a branding exercise which SAP has done. So this is all about OpenUFI and SAP UFI. And if we are clear, I'll just move to the Cloud Foundry part, the cloud apps part, which we thought of actually starting.
So this um, SAP UI5, which we need a license for, does the license come as part of our how does that license work?
Yes. So that good question. So in Fiori 1.0, like I said, it was used to be a separate license. Like however, we are if a customer using CRM module, they had to purchase CRM specific license, etc. Back then. So similarly, UFA apps to build or anything consume, customer had to buy separate license. But now there is like one significant difference called SAP NetWeaver Stack 7.4. So when I say SAP NetWeaver Stack, so this is NetWeaver stack. So NetWeaver. So see the SAP server where or CRM module or anything, everything the SAP server is the same. So I'll show it in practically as well. So what we do is if network stack is 7.4 and above, so this is every server has some operating system. Now how we have an operating system, Windows or Mac. So SAP server, the stack which is used is called as SAP network. So this stack allows us to add add-ons on top of it. So in 7.4 and above, by default, SAP component is being pre-installed. When I say it comes by default, like in our Windows, by default we get some of the apps, right? So pre-default. So in similarly from network stack, if customer is having 7.4 and above, they have SAP UFI directly shipped within their SAP license itself. When I say SAP license, when they're purchasing or having this particular version. So how do we check? I'll just show that in a moment. So idea is if you are having 7.4 and above, you have SAP UFI inbuilt. You need not do any manual installation, etc. You are straight away you can start building applications and consume, make use of existing license. So what SAP does is we are giving you everything free of cost. All you need to do is think of a nice idea and start building your applications. We are not going to charge you anything. You have an existing ecosystem, but the catch is the user license. So user license, how many ever users you have to use your application, for that SAP charges still. Okay, so there is no direct license cost associated with an application, but it has an indirect cost associated with the number of users using your solution. So if the solution is too good, and if lots of users are using it, then it has to pay for your user license. Okay, that's a different topic altogether. But to answer your question, if you hang SAP Network 7.4 and above, you need not to worry about licensing cost. It is you have the default libraries available. Let me quickly show you that as well.
So
So
these per user licenses, they are for the cloud or they are for on-premise also?
on-premise as well. So that's the revenue model SAP is getting it from back in, so from lots of days back. So if you instead of how many, if you are using GUI transaction or you are using UF application, it's all about user license. So if you have a user license, if you have a GUI user, so this is I'm a GUI, if you are using a GUI here in this case. So this is one license. So what I'm trying to say is you have this, access. Now ES5 is an SAP server itself. So I'm accessing this server. So this user ID, one user ID is and one user license. So per user, the license cost every year it has to pay to SAP. So how many users are using whether they're using GUI or whether you're using Fiori apps, they have to pay their separate license is what I'm trying to say.
So it's not tied to Fiori itself. It's just tied to the user.
Correct.
So yeah, okay, got it.
So that's SAP way of putting together simple. It will try to say SAP ecosystem, everything, all products for it is same. For us, when we are learning SAP Fiori, so we try to look it in Fiori point of view. But SAP as a whole, it says you buy SAP. If you're buying SAP, you're getting all these things by default. So that's the SAP's way of putting the cost associated. So if you log into any GUI system or for matter UFA, so one place to look for is you have to go to your system and you have something called let me say here menu. Yeah, so there's here from the menu you can go to system, and here you have something called status. So if you do not find under the system, you can go to menu and status. So this will give you the complete your server so like how we have used our you know here we have right clicked and we have checked all the properties, so which operating system it is running, etc. Just like for any server also we can check what exactly details we have. So the same I have done for my SAP server, which is ES instance. If you see, it uses what this is my user ID, and this is what all how long this license is valid. So it is valid, so this is a free license, so I have unlimited license validity. So we can check the license validity, and we can see on which operating system this particular server is running. It is running on Windows NT, or it's a server instance, and it's running on a VMware server on top of it is running, and it is using database as Sybase. Sybase is SAP acquired this particular product, so for because it is using for this demo purposes, it is using as Sybase. But technically SAP is now for all other paid customers it uses HANA as if you see in your any or existing system you'll find HANA as your default database. And why I'm showing this is, so this is a place where you'll know which are installed applications, like how we go to our Windows or anywhere and control panel. So this is the place for the server. You click on this icon, it will show you what all are installed on your server, on your SAP server. So if you see, these are the software components which are installed, and these are the products which are installed. So different between software components products is products are yours like CRM module or PLM module, or it's like all servers are same. Only thing is SAP just gives this additional add-on and it charges different cost. So if you are using CRM module, it used to cost in ERP system, ECC system, I'm trying to say. So all your ECC systems are the same. Only difference is the software which SAP is trying to ship, and that is the how SAP charges its cost. So if you are using ECC module, all the business components are shipped will be visible in your software components tab, whereas your product will be listed as SAP CRM or SAP PLM, etc. in this particular as a product stack. Now in this case, the network version which I was talking is this is, so they're like two stacks in general to install these components. So on top of this, we need to have if this version is 7.4 and above, you have this component called sap.ui. So if I go here, sap.ui is a component. If I just pull this out a little bit, so sap.ui is a component which is allows us to build all our SAP UF and Fiori applications. So this is the SAP UFI license which I'm talking about. So this was used to be this, if you want to add this component, SAP used to charge separately in very beginning days, but now it comes inbuilt. So if it is 7.4 and above, because it came by default, this component is meant for UI, and similar GWFND is meant for your OData service. So if you see Gateway Foundation, that means you can build OData services as well on this system. So these are the two components which are required for your building Fiori apps. So SAP.UI is meant for UI applications, Fiori apps, etc. And GWFND is meant for creating OData services. If you have these two, you are good to go. Clear? So if you see,
Yeah.
in product version, now it is SAP Fiori FPS for S4 HANA. So S4 HANA latest version, we have the version here. So this is like 2020 edition, latest edition is installed on this. So here they'll mention when it is updated, etc. as well. So these are the information, initial shipment. So this is the latest, 2020 is the latest edition. So this is what is being shipped. So to sum up today's learnings, so what we are trying to understand is UFI etc. are shipped with our existing. If it is 7.4 and above, you need not to think about anything. All your no, you come to any of your customer system, go and check whether they are running on very older stack or anything. You can come back to your product version and you can check your network stack. If it is 7.4 and below 7.3, then you have to ask your basis team to manually install these components. If you are 7.4 and above, it is by default available. So that is the only catch. So if you're running very old, so then you have to make sure that your basis has to do this all these activities for you before start building your Fiori applications. So that is one important thing to remember. Hope I'm clear till here. So this is all about OpenUF, etc. So these are like existing. These has been since last 10 years. These are the things existed. But what's new? So what are brand new and which are completely new. So I'll just show you today. I'll not talk much about it, but gradually we'll talk about this. So when I opening note when I was starting it, so I was just introducing to SAP Business Technology Platform. So Business Technology Platform is new way of doing things. So these are like evolving. It's still evolving. I won't say it's um, not many customers are actually are readily using the cloud. Very limited set of customers are actually interested as on it, but this picture is going to change in next 5 years. Next 5 years, on-premise footfall will decrease gradually and rely on more on the cloud. Reason being is cloud it comes with less cost. The major thing which drives is right now because of security consciousness, all are the data centers are there hosting within their premises. If you take any big customer, they prefer to have their own in-house SAP consultants, in-house data centers, and they manage their own systems with their own manpower. So SAP won't actually monitor your day-to-day operations of your SAP business data. You have to have your own employees and you have to have your own SAP team to manage your day-to-day operations of your business data. So that's how the system has been since last 20-30 years, but the picture is going to change forever. So why how it changes is I'm just going to show you now. So this is what we call it as a cloud platform. This is an open source called Cloud Foundry. On top of Cloud Foundry, SAP has built this business technology platform. So it is purely based on subscription based. If I see here, once I log into this, you also can log in and you should be able to see this same screen what I'm seeing right now. So the moment I go to home page, we have something called, let me power my laptop. 1 second, give me a minute. So I'll click on this. So this is how you'll also be prompted. If after 30 every 30 days, up to 365 days, we have it will be provided, but every 30 days you have to just click on extend. If at all after 30 days, if you get this prompt, all you have to do is just click on extend account. So automatically it will take you to your services. So this was intentionally they kept 30 days window because cloud cost it would be SAP would be bearing the cost of what all activities we are doing on this. So idle resource it doesn't want to keep using it. It will keep it in dormant state unless if you are really using then only it will activate our services etc. That way it can reduce its cost. So, just all you have to do is click on extend account and you are good to use for another 30 days. So likewise, we can use up to 365 days. Once it is done, again, I'm not sure how we will be able to use, but you can have to create your fresh account or using different email ID, etc. So this got activated. So up to 365 days length, it would give us interval of this one. Okay, so use trial account for 3 stars. This is how it confirms. So if you're on this, then first and foremost thing you have to do is you have to create your own instance. So I'll just tell you. So click on if you have anything this way, it is fine. But first of all, let me tell you. So this is like a SaaS solution. So it's like it's not a SaaS solution. It's a platform as a service solution. It's a PaaS solution. So in the cloud stack, all the services etc. are by default managed by SAP. Now in stuff in on-premise, so in on-premise technically how it is everyday new softwares etc. B system will be installing the latest updates etc, and then that's how the thing runs. But in the cloud, SAP manages everything, all the latest softwares etc, patches. So there is considerable delay in receiving updates when you rely on on-premise. On-premise, each customer is running on different versions, and they are not actually migrating to the latest one as and when it is available. But the cloud completely removes that problem because SAP manages everything. So all customers who are on cloud will always be on the latest stack itself because SAP is managing everything from their end. So how is it being done? Just like how we are using Netflix etc, it's completely subscription based. We call it as a tenant model. So what is tenant model is, if you are having if you are having see now we have many things coming into picture, GDPR in Europe etc, where all your data should reside in European region only. And even certain countries they restrict even the business data. Though you are a US company, if you are running your operation in India, you have to ensure that your all Indian data should reside in Indian data centers only. So they are like clear guidelines evolving. Now if you are using an on-premise model, overnight you cannot actually create a data center in India, and you cannot create a data center in China separately, and you cannot manage it because that's very complex way of dealing that heterogeneous landscape, because things can change. So if a new rule comes which mandates you to mandatorily host all your data in specific country itself, then your job is all the more tougher. So you're able to visualize a kind of complexities are evolving in the outside market. So whereas in case of cloud, uh, uh, currently AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, all these big players have data centers across the world. So they are also increasing their footprint gradually. So what's the advantage is we can choose where our data resides. So in the cloud, and we can subscribe based on number of users, number of departments, etc. We can subscribe, and all the services are available uh, in those respective data centers. So in this case, if you see, one is running on my Frankfurt Europe region on AWS service. So I just create a new sub account. So all you have to do is come to this after you log in, click on new sub account, and give it a name. You can give it a name. So this is my, I'll call it, I'll try to create one for US region. So I'll say this as my HR US region. So for HR related activities, I want to create a US region, and I create one called apps hosted for US region, and I'll just select provider. So we can choose which are the cloud providers. So this we call it as, they call it as what we call hybrid cloud. So some of the applications you can host it on different service provider, and some of the application you can host on different service provider. So it's customer if he prefers Amazon services as most secure. Like in EC system, we used to have Oracle as the default database. But if you are given a choice, you can choose which database operator to use etc. Then definitely if there is a some other vendor who is competitor, definitely you use. In cloud space there are lots of providers who are providing. Today if you have built in AWS, you can migrate them to Azure cloud in very relatively very easy way. There are like lots of migration services are also available. So the idea is you can choose your so if you're not happy with the service or zero downtime is what these PaaS solutions offer. Whereas in on-premise, technically we have upgrade cycles, etc. Be it business cycles, or be it software update cycles. So here there is no concept of update cycles. Everything is managed by the provider itself. That's in this case it's SAP. So we can choose a region. In this case, currently for the free trial, only two options were given for AWS: US East and Europe Frankfurt. and for Azure, if I see, they're like different. It provides a region as Singapore. So based on provider availability, etc., we can choose where our data has to reside. For all the application right now, I'm just selecting as US East as this one, and I'll create a subdomain as HR payroll. Okay. Beta features, I don't want it to enable. Custom features, nothing. Just click on create. That's it. So if you have created one this way, then your all your instance will be created, and you can use all your uh, activities, etc., in this particular region. Generally, as a thumb rule, all these activities will be done for us by our corporate, which are client we are working on. They'll have all these things managed. All we do is we start building our applications, and all our data resides in those respective regions. So in this case, when I click on this, now my instance is ready, and I'm now free to host all my content and data. So what are apps we build? Everything data resides now in US East region itself, data center. So that's that easy. See, in finger clicks, I'm able to host on create a server instance, and I am able to host it. But that's not the case in on-premise. I have to do lots of in at least a preparation of 2-3 months. I have to preparation I have to do, and to ensure that data center is available, then I have to host. But now in within minutes, I'm able to do sitting just right here. So that is the beauty of cloud. So it solves lots of problems actually. So I think
So
it will just take a minute.
right now you were creating an instance of so this HRUS region that you created. What exactly is that one?
Yeah. So what now I have created is I created one instance of it. So we have something called private cloud and public cloud. So what I created is the one as a public cloud. So it is shared, that same data center. Even you can create, I can create, many other people who are using trial account can create. That means it is shared space. So many users can deploy their applications that we call it as a public cloud, where all are will be separated instances, but it is just an instance. So we are reusing the same server capability for multiple scenarios.
Okay, okay, got it.
See, what I'm trying to say is these are like newer ways of doing. Okay, so it gives us some flexibility in terms of where our data has to reside as well. So that is the only difference in terms of see now the same application in ES5, if I'm using it, I am bound to what our ES5 system currently it is. We have used I have logged in earlier to ES5, so we are bound to what our location it is hosted, right? So in this case, it might have been hosted somewhere. So even we do not know where it is hosted. Okay, for that matter. So, but that's not the case in case of this. So if we check, I think somewhere it might have been listed. I'm not sure. Nothing would be listed. So we'll not know where this has been hosted. Currently, it is so it is running on a VMware virtual host, but we do not know where this data center resides, etc. So if SAP has deployed in Germany, because that's where it's running,